Have a pair of gloves.
And
Smile at the camera.
You guys
Come here!
Hey everybody, thanks for watching the VSO Gun Channel. Today, I'm going to be recapping my trip to Tactical Response in early April 2016 for Fighting Rifle. I went down to meet with some of my friends that were taking the course, and I kind of evolved from there, and I ended up taking Advanced Fighting Rifle as well. For lots of information on the core curriculum of Tactical Response, I'm going to reference you to the Fighting Pistol, Advanced Fighting Pistol video that I did from last December, just to keep this video pretty concise. And really what I want to do is focus in this video on the differences between the curriculum of Fighting Pistol and Advanced Fighting Pistol to that of Advanced Fighting Rifle and Fighting Rifle. So in the interest of keeping this video concise, we're going to skip the analysis on mindset, tactics, skill, and gear for this, and say that it's pretty analogous to Fighting Pistol and Advanced Fighting Pistol, except for the focus of Fighting Rifle on team tactics, and specifically in Advanced Fighting Rifle. There's a lot more team tactics and ground fighting stuff than you would see in the Advanced Fighting Pistol or Fighting Pistol classes. And the way I wanted to also kind of, at least my perception of how the course is Fighting Pistol and Advanced Fighting Pistol are classes for right now. Like, this is what you're going to use right now in your day-to-day, everyday carry scenario where you're walking around the mall or, you know, out to dinner with your girlfriend or whatever. You know, you're going to use the skills and mindset and all that sort of stuff that you learn in Advanced Fighting Pistol and Fighting Pistol now. Fighting Rifle and Advanced Fighting Rifle are more, hopefully never used sort of things. So we're talking about team-based tactics, we're talking about moving, undercover fire, and, you know, all those sorts of things. I'm not going to dig hardcore into the course curriculum here, but I will say that I would assess that this is something that you would do with your team of people back at home in preparation for perhaps future happenings. Also, with Fighting Rifle as opposed to Fighting Pistol, any rifle course is going to have other concerns that go along with it besides just pistol. So you do use a Fighting Pistol in Advanced Fighting Rifle and Fighting Rifle, but it's a support weapon at that point in time, instead of in like a pistol course that is the primary weapon that you're training on. The pistol and Fighting Rifle is a subordinate gun that you use in basically oh crap situations. Those concerns that I mentioned earlier, you know, things like there's certain skills like transitions and proper uses of safeties and things like that when we're talking about rifles. And the other aspect of the rifle is it's a longer gun. There are different techniques for manipulating the gun and for, you know, driving it properly, and so as to keep everybody safe. There are obviously greater safety concerns when we're talking about a Fighting Rifle than we're talking about a Fighting Pistol. It was stressed multiple times in the briefing of the course that rifles kill people. These are guns that are designed to kill people, and they're much more lethal than your average pistol round. That's just fact. And statistically, people shot with pistols, you know, they get to a 21st century care facility and they usually survive. But people shot with rifles, the mortality rate of people shot with rifles is much higher than that of pistols. So there are obviously other safety concerns that go into effect when you're talking about manipulation of safeties and you know, the proper time to use those, the improper time to use those, and that is specific depending on what kind of fighting rifle you're using. The class mostly focused specifically on the AR-15 and the AK. There were a few other guns in there that were very similar. There was one roller lock, but pretty much most people were using either an AK or an AR, with most people using an AR. So let's go ahead and break this down a little bit. Obviously there's two courses here that I'm kind of treating as one because it was 4 days of continuous training, which I was completely beat by the end of, by the way. We had 26 students in fighting rifle. It was run in 2 flights and there were 3 instructors. So they always teach that, you know, you should have an instructor ratio of, 7-to-1 kind of thing. This is well under, so 2 flights of 13, and there was plenty of one-on-one time with the instructors. It always seemed like I turned around and there was one standing right behind me and basically looking at me like, yep, you screwed that up, try again. So they're very hands-on, very into making sure that you're getting the mechanics of things down, because the course is very, it starts you at a very, very basic level. They actually start you out with pistol on the range, and then they move you up to the next drill. We'll have it like more of a movement-based pistol drill, and then you start moving into the rifle, and then you're doing static rifle drills, and then you're doing motion-based rifle drills. So it goes from, it's a building course. So what you're learning at the very, very beginning of the course is relevant all the way through to the end of the course. It's very repetitive in that the skills that you learn in the very beginning, at the very first drill, are carried through all the way to the end of the course to make sure that not only are you getting the most efficient way to operate the gun, but you're also being able to do that while communicate with your team, and then also operate the gun safely. So that, because you got to remember, you have a lot of people standing around. A lot of people criticize tactical response for running gun up in their drills. All their drills are run gun up. In fact, I had an argument in the comment section with a viewer the other day, and he said that you should never point a gun at the air. That it's dangerous, that you could cook a round off and then you could send it down, range and injure somebody. I see the point, but there is something that you very much need to take into account. And that is that it is never a 100% definitive whether it is better to go gun up or gun down. It is an inequality. It's not an equality, it's an inequality. Do we all remember those from, high school algebra? The inequality is risk of gun up is either greater than, less than, or equal to risk of gun down. So you have to look at it like this. On a range with a bunch of students, 26 students plus instructors and all that sort of stuff, are you more likely to injure somebody by discharging a round into the dirt and it potentially skipping and hitting another student, or to send a round into the air in rural Tennessee where the greatest thing that you're liable to damage is a dirt clod? You have to take this into account. Each situation dictates how you run your gun. And you're going to see a lot of that through this video. You're going to see a lot of gun up stuff. And in that particular situation, it is better to run gun up. At our range in Ohio, it is better to run gun up because we all have people around us. We have cameras, we have support personnel, we have photographers running around with us. It is more likely that I will hurt somebody by a negligent discharge into the ground and it's skipping and hitting them than it is if it goes down range. And the worst possible thing that it will likely hit is maybe a cow at terminal velocity, and the thing will probably just be like, whatever. So I'll give you two scenarios real quick. I'm gonna wrap this point up real quick. If you live on the first floor of an apartment building, you should more than most likely run gun down, because that round can go through those subsequent floors and injure somebody that you don't know. Likewise, if you're in the middle of the ocean, you should run gun up, because if you discharge that gun and it goes through the bottom of the boat, you will sink. So it is all relative to where you are located on the earth. So in this video, you're gonna see a lot of gun up stuff, and that's why they do it. Just a safety precaution. It's better at that particular place in time to run gun up than it is to run gun down. Now, let's move on from fighting rifle and talk about advanced fighting rifle, because I know I'm pushing my time limit here. In fact, I got dogged on by the guys at Tactical Response because I droned on in my other video on fighting pistol and advanced fighting pistol. Advanced fighting rifle is a complete mindfuck, and I'm gonna leave that F word in there for effect, because fighting rifle takes you from individual capabilities up to team capabilities. So it teaches people who've never properly operated a firearm before, all the way up to being able to use this in conjunction with, I think the last drill has 4 people, so 2 teams of 2. Advanced fighting rifle picks up where fighting rifle leaves off, and then takes you into a state of sensory overload. The first day of advanced fighting rifle, I actually could not even film half the class because it was sideways rain and all that sort of stuff. So that added to it a little bit, but we're talking constantly on top of you, instructors, they're causing malfunctions in your guns, which was a little bit prevalent in fighting pistol and advanced fighting pistol, but we're talking, at this point in time, we're talking like dust covers closed, we're getting double feeds induced, like right in action kind of thing. So I mean, it's a much more on top of you kind of thing that they're doing in advanced fighting rifle. So to try to paint a picture for you guys without giving a whole lot of it away, should you decide to go take this course, you know, I don't want you to be able to war game it. 2 paper targets versus 5 students that are heavily armed, paper targets that don't move, don't shoot back, none of that stuff. We actually had multiple positions of cover. I'm pretty sure that we died 3 out of the 5 times. And all of that centered around, you know, improperly doing something like didn't drag the wounded person, quote unquote wounded, you know, obviously simulated, the simulated wounded person off of the X where they were injured. You know, in fact, I even did that. So to kind of put it in perspective, we're talking about a situation where you are overwhelmingly in control of the situation, and we still screwed up so many times in so many different ways that we probably wouldn't have made it out of there if they were bad guys that moved and shot back. Now, by the end of the whole thing, we pretty much had it down, but it puts you in a situation where you really have to sit back and look at yourself, because everybody has a perception. We all play this kind of war game in our mind where we put ourselves into a gunfight and we think about how it's going to go and how we would react. And you can do that all day long, but until you actually get out there and get put into a situation where you have to think on your feet, on adrenaline, with elements coming at you like rain and wind and instructors stomping on your gear and, you know, all that sort of stuff, until you do that, you're just not going to know. And there are lots of people that went into that class with preconceived notions of how things were going to happen, and those kind of ideas get shattered when you go to something like that. And I highly, highly suggest going and taking fighting rifle, and definitely advanced fighting rifle if you are serious about learning more about how to use your rifle in a fighting sense. Now, speaking of fighting rifle, what we're going to do is actually take a look at the gun that I used and how it fared. I was shooting Freedom Munitions 55 grain ammunition the entire time. I fired approximately 2,500 rounds in 4 days through that rifle. Minimal cleaning. I did do a chamber brush real quick on the chamber. I used LPS lubricant the entire time, and I also hit the cam on the bolt carrier group real quick with that brush as well, and again just sprayed her down with LPS. And that happened middle of the last day on advanced fighting rifle that I did that. And then I proceeded to shoot approximately 500 more rounds through my gun after that. Then that was really just to make sure that it was in full operation after, you know, all the abuse that I put it through for 3 days, 3.5 days, just to ensure that it made it through the final drills, because I wanted to make sure that I was able to contribute to the team the entire time. So let's look at the sort of things that were damaged on the gun. So right off the bat, I broke my charging handle. If you guys have been following on social media, specifically on Facebook and Instagram, you will have seen that I bent the shit out of my charging handle. It was cracked at the front, allowing it to kind of jam up in the channel. So basically it just wasn't working. Like, I literally could not put the gun into battery with it like that. So Don Numbers, the MF Armorer, if you don't follow him, he's a great guy. He was able to actually lend me a charging handle halfway through the day of the last day of Advanced Fighting Rifle. Thanks, Don. Much appreciated. As far as the other parts of the charging handle that were broken, there was I had a tack latch on the thing. It was a VSOrdnance tack latch. That thing was broken off. The actual extra latch thing was broken off after first day of fighting rifle. So literally the first day of class, that was broken. So when I went about assessing the charging handle, you know, when I realized the front of it was cracked and bent, I was, you know, checking out the rest of it, and I could see that the retaining pin at the rear of the charging handle had been pretty much shattered into, you know, 3 or 4 pieces within its channel. And the only thing that was really holding it together was the fact that it was assembled inside the gun. So that thing was completely toast. Other things that were broken on the gun, so I'm not going to place blame on this one to anyone, but there was a particular drill where I was simulated wounded, and I was kind of like, you know, flopping around as like the, you know, the guy that would have an arterial bleed and lost too much blood, and he just kind of like goes out of consciousness. Well, somebody else's gun went down, and the gun got passed around. You know, my gun got passed around as the gun that was up, kind of thing. And somewhere in the course of fire, the flash suppressor on the end of my gun blew up. I don't know how that happened. I'm, again, not going to place blame on anybody, but one of the other students in the class blew up the flash suppressor on the end of the gun. Now, the reason I mention that is not to place blame on anybody, but I wanted to highlight how this particular flash suppressor handled that thing. A lot of times when you see something like that, a bore obstruction or something like that happen on a gun, you see catastrophic failure of the barrel, that sort of stuff. None of that stuff happened in this instance because of the construction of this particular flash suppressor. This is a YHM Phantom. I will be ordering another one of these, because basically what this thing did was open up like a petal, like a flower, like flower petals. It basically opened up. Now, while I was fixing this, basically, you know, I was offered another gun to be able to use for the class, and I was like, heck no, I want to continue using my gun because I want to see if it'll stop, you know, at this point in time. So basically, I have this flash suppressor that's completely petaled open, and I'm basically beating the thing against the ground to straighten the thing so that a bullet can, you know, travel through, and I don't have those sharp flanges hanging out, you know, maybe cut myself on them or something like that. So, you know, I was bending them back, and I actually knocked my gas system out of alignment. This is actually an old Rock River gas system with an integrated front sight post that has been, you know, hawked from another gun. So this thing is somewhat heavy, but at the same time it does have a pick rail on it, and it does have integral sights, so I'm okay with that. But what happened was it was knocked out of alignment, and it was like literally hanging on the end of the barrel. So I put it back in and just tightened the sucker down. And the reason I mention this is I wanted to illustrate that there's a lot of banter out there on the internet that your gas system has to be perfectly aligned to run properly. All you have to do is look down this sight picture here and see that that is completely false. That is at least 5, maybe even 10 degrees off center, and this gun ran like a champ the rest of the day. Now, that is centered around the age-old argument of mid-length gas system versus carbine length gas system. So as far as, you know, techniques and everything are concerned and how they relate to the firearm, I have decided that I'm actually, post this course at Tactical Response, going to cut off the bolt release on my AR-15. I don't think it's necessary. They teach putting the gun into battery with the charging handle on your gun because it works 100% of the time. Yes, AR-15s do lock back most of the time, but I will tell you this, by the end of Advanced Fighting Rifle, very few guns were reliably locking back. Even the high quality built guns that many people had in the class by very reputable manufacturers, I will tell you that very few of those guns were reliably locking back on the last round, and the charging handle always works. As you can see, the gun's pretty dirty. I left it this way on purpose so you guys can see what a gun looks like after it goes through a class. I know that Schwell specifically asked to see what that looked like. And here it is. She is filthy, she is dirty, but she still runs like a champ. This is me shooting the gun post-class, just showing you that it does indeed still work. Oh, last thing. This EOTech that's on here is garbage. It did break. It did maintain 0 the whole time, but it's got parts bouncing around inside of it. And I don't give it long for this world after this class. So that is my review of Advanced Fighting Rifle and Fighting Rifle from Tactical Response. It was an absolutely excellent class that I suggest that anybody who's serious about learning more about their firearm and how to operate it should go and take. This is a class that you want to take in your gear. If you have an idea to take a class in a specific type of gear, stick with it the entire time. I ran plates for 4 days. You can too. Again, this was our review of the Fighting Rifle and Advanced Fighting Rifle class at Tactical Response that we took in April of 2016. It is a very, very well put together curriculum, very, very knowledgeable instructors, and I think that you will find your money well spent there. That said, if you guys are planning on taking the course, you can always correspond with us on our Facebook page and let us know that you're going, and maybe we will even go down there and train with you as well. Thanks again for watching the VSO Gun Channel, and we'll catch you on the next video. I'm up. Tree line 36 centimeters. Roger that. Let's go.
Hey! Get down, get down. Get behind cover, you retard. Hey!
And
Smile at the camera.
are you guys hooked in there? All right, here we go. Fight!
Sometime this week it'd be nothing, sweetheart.
I'll see you guys in a little bit.
All right. You're unable to move at all, George. You're going to have to be carried.
I have to be carried.